The following is brought to you by the Starfleet Podcast Network, SPN, The Spin. Well, they're not rules, they're guidelines. And the problem is you have ill-informed individuals making judgments on something that you're doing when they don't have the correct information, or they've gotten it twisted around to thinking, I know what I'm talking about. I know it's right. No, you don't. You actually do not. But you're going to tell us how to do what we're doing.
Red alert.
You know what I was thinking? I was going to do some introductions for us, and hopefully for anyone that's listening to this on our audio platform, you'll also watch on YouTube, because I don't think the names and voices are probably you're not going to know who's talking, even when I do the introductions. But if you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be a lot better that way. So I am Big J with Beyond Trek Podcast. I'm here with Randy Wrenn, David Cheng, Steve Harris, Glen Wolfe, and Joe Cepeda. Did I get it right on the first try?
Yeah, pretty close.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. All right. That's awesome. So we're going to be talking about Star Trek fan films this evening. This is, I was really excited to sit here and talk with you guys. There's a couple of these that I'm going to be doing roundtables like this, and I've gotten to meet a lot of you on Facebook, gotten to friend a bunch of you guys. And if we're not friends, just look up Jefferson Kelly on Facebook. You'll see me right there. Pretty hard to miss. And I've got to tell you, I have really enjoyed seeing more on my feed that's about Star Trek and about the things that you guys do and the fan films that you're a part of, which I have to say, I've always watched them. I've never been in one or done any work on any. It's something that I've always thought, that would be great if that opportunity ever came up. But I've been an avid watcher of all of these. I really like fan films. There's certainly a lot of good ones out there. And so the questions I've got for you guys, because I have several, so hopefully I won't take up a lot of the time just me talking. And for anyone, feel free to kind of jump in with your input or thoughts, anything like that. But the first question that I have to ask for you guys is why? Why do you spend all this time, all this effort, if there's money exchanging hands or whatnot? What is it about Star Trek that compels you to want to make a fan film? Start with anybody. You can all jump right in. All right, Glenn, let's hear it.
I might be the guy that's been in it the longest. Maybe Jose's been longer than me, but I've been doing this over 10 years in fan films, and started doing my own about 7 years ago. But why? Because I'm crazy. And you can ask my wife, and she will tell you that that's absolutely true. Honestly, though, I've always been interested in, I guess you could say I'm artsy, I guess, if that's still a legit term, because I studied graphic arts when I was much younger. And then when Star Wars came out, I was 10 years old. So the perfect age for that market. Then if me and my couple of my friends at school went and bought an 8mm camera, we were going to make a Star Wars fan film when we were 10. So like I said, crazy. Of course, that never worked out. And then I went on with real life and did real jobs in that, and then discovered fan films again about, back when I was into it, there was no such thing as a fan film. But anyway, I discovered fan films accidentally buying a pirated video on eBay.
Oh.
I didn't know it was pirate, because I didn't know what
you wouldn't download a movie, would you? You wouldn't steal a car.
I actually bought a CD. I bought a DVD of one of James Cawley's films that somebody pirated and was selling. And that's how I found out what fan films were. And then I contacted him and started working with him. And then I worked on probably, 20 different people's projects aside from my own. So, but it's fun. I do it because it's creative. I like to create. And I'm going to stop there because we got several other guests, I'm sure, that want to chime in.
Wow. Well, Glenn, I have to admit, I think I share a common vision, I think, with Glenn after hearing him, because I was introduced to fan films, or the art of fan filming. I've always had a Super 8 camera, but in high school, I met a fellow high school fan that was making movies with a Super 8. I said, "Oh my God, I had no idea you could make your own films."
Yes.
Yeah, he was making a vampire movie. And I said, "Oh my God, this is incredible." And he even got the assistant principal and all his high school friends. And I said, "Gee, I want to be in his world." So I like Mission Impossible. So I made Mission Incredible and got all your high school friends in it and just went out and went crazy and gaga. But that was the start. But what Glenn said, I think, hit my heart and soul. What he said, why we do it. Yeah, it's the craziness of for me, the craziness of the passion and the vision that you say, I got this story, and I think if I develop this story, it's going to be a great one. So you start working with it. And then everything falls around that story. Like, how do you present this story to the fans? And then this vision, you're like Glenn says, that the chemistry of what do you call it? Creative vision comes out. And then, oh my God, this is so exciting. And then you're thinking of the shower. Well, what if it happened this way? And then you're walking, but what if it happened that way? Then it just, creative juices of your vision just start to flow. And then you get crazy actors that are willing to say, yeah, I'll be in your film. Yeah, I'll do that. I'll put on a costume and I'll be blankety blank, And then you figure out, how do I do it? Because as you do it, you come up with more creative ways of doing it. Like, I'm still discovering new ways to make my film. Like Bomber Girl, I said, is it possible I could do this? And then it's like I'm rediscovering the fan films, is that you can use blue screen, green screen. You can manipulate the digits. And I said, gosh, I didn't know that, to the point where now you can become as creative as you want and support your story. So I would say, in closing here, is that I think the fascination of making fan films is creating is worlds that have never been seen before, that you would love to be able to act in. And a story goes wild and it's like, look at this imaginary world, when it's a spaceship and go gaga over it, because you have so many different ways of doing it,
Living in a world that you can't live in, kind of living out your own fantasy. And that's what I imagine when I'm on my riding mower, tearing up and down the lawn, listening to music, just imagining these films and these things that you can do. So Randy, David, Steve, either of you guys want to add in as to why you do this crazy stuff? What possesses you to do this?
I was into Star Trek cosplay, actually, for many years before I even got into fan films. So I was cosplaying, at Star Trek conventions with friends. And then I became aware that, people were making these Star Trek fan films. And I thought, oh, that sounds kind of fun. It'd be kind of maybe a little bit of an extension of the cosplaying that we do. So that's how I kind of got started in it. And I found that it was so much fun. I, just kept going, and, I'm still doing it now because it's so much, it's frustrating, but it's still fun, but it's fun. And it gives you a chance to really kind of, like Jose was saying, to get creative with things. I like sometimes exploring different themes that maybe I haven't seen explored too much. So it gives you a chance just really to kind of work your creative juices and come up with, the challenge of, doing a story that people might be intrigued with. And, it's pretty satisfying when you finally come up with the final product, to having gone through that process and finally seeing your work come to fruition.
Nice. I really like how you worded all of that. And it sounds like it's something that you're proud of. You're proud of doing. It's a challenge to come up with a story and something to put together that you want to present. And let me direct this one at you, Steve, because I like your nickname there, Harry. That's great. And the reason I'm envious is because I have no hair up here, up at the top.
I don't either.
My kids took it away. That's where it went.
Yep.
So, Steve, is there a story that you're most proud of?
Me?
Yep. Can see and hear you just fine.
Okay.
Is there any particular story you're most proud of?
Okay, this is going to sound strange because I started out like a lot of the other guys. I started out in high school. Okay. I learned how to do filmmaking when I was 15, and we were into the Star Trek cosplay too, but we had to make our own costumes. And we bought a magazine called the Star Trek Poster Book that had an ad in the back of it for uniform shirts. So I'm like, hey, you know what? We got a camera. We can order these costumes. We can order these phasers. Let's do it. And we did that. And it turned out not great because it was our first experiment with sound film. And it was sort of an incomplete script. The idea was that USS Columbia was going to revisit some other planets that Enterprise had been to. There were basically what's lower decks now. As you know, you're going to your second contact, dude. All right,
you're there for the paperwork.
You're never going to be the first, but you're going to go and find out what happened after. So we went to the gangster planet, and we're going to find out what happened there. So it turned it out, I spent about $200 in 1977 money on film and everything, and produced about 15 minutes of usable film. And I've still kept it, and it's my favorite. Even though it's out of focus, I'm missing special effects, but it was a high school project with my friends that I'd never see anymore. And it's just a part of my history that I really loved doing. I called it another piece of the action. So that was going to be Star Trek: The Ultimate Frontier.
I love it.
Currently, we've produced Pecto Studios and Harris Film Productions has produced one film together that's actually online, and we're working on several more. The one that we've produced that's on YouTube right now is called Captain Roth's Final Message. Working on a sequel and a prequel, and plus I'm working on 4 other things with Vance Majors that are crossover films with his characters. And I've got a couple of other little small projects that are coming up that are interrelated. So hope that answers your question. I'm excited, and I'm honored to be with you guys. You guys are, legends. Seriously, I'm not trying to suck up, but I do appreciate the fan film groups that we have here, especially these that are represented here, and Vance Majors, and of course those that couldn't be with us tonight, who were invited. But there's a lot of talk about toxic environment in fan films. I think that's from outside. I don't see it a lot inside. Now that's I have had it. Okay. In fact, I started with a group in October last year or August last year. And the guys that came with me to Harris Film all agreed that it was a toxic environment. So we just stopped, took a break over the holidays, got back together in January and regrouped. And so far, things have been working out here. And I don't see a lot of stuff with you guys in drama in the background. And I appreciate that. If it's there, you've kept it quiet, or it's been low murmurs, and nobody's really talking about it. And I appreciate that too. It's that type of an environment that will help us all get along and cooperate together and promote what we love, instead of having the backbiting and people going, hey, wait a minute, who made you boss? Are you working for CBS or something? You're talking bad about me, like you own the product. No, we all have a different vision. David's got a vision, and you're mostly in the movie era, right, David?
The TOS movie area. A lot of the ones we've been doing have been in that era. Yeah, but I'm kind of branching out.
See, and I'm trying to stay TOS phase 2. I'm trying to move into phase 2. And then you've got some other people who have money. I mean, we're doing green screen stuff, dude. We've got some great special effects, but in the long run, it takes your compositor to do the job to make it all look good after you've got your backgrounds and your costumes and your acting. It's a combined process, and I don't see how you guys do it. I mean, I have no budget, and you guys have produced stuff that you can watch on a big screen TV. That's my goal, is to fill the gap, the story gap between TOS and the movies, and do it in an entertaining way that the ADHD crowd will be able to follow and not want to just stop and go to commercial. Hey, where's my commercial? I need a commercial. I'm bored.
Randy, do you have anything you'd like to add to this so far? Love to hear from you.
I was thinking about all these people and their origin stories, and I was thinking about mine. It seems like my whole life has been a series of if you look at it, you see these little threads, and they're all coming from all different directions, and they're meeting about 2013. And, I wrote a short story and poetry when I was in high school. Later on, I wrote songs. Later on, I tried artistry, drawing and things like that. I tried to learn how to play an instrument. All my life has been like this quest to try to do something creative and be good at something. And I've been a total failure.
No, you're just a perfectionist.
No. I mean, really, I haven't produced anything that anybody else would want to see in all those years, decades. But in 2013, I met Frank Parker, and he said, "Hey, you want to come down to the sets with me?" And I went down, and the second or third visit to the sets, he says, "Hey, I'm writing. They're going to let me do a film. Would you like to write the script? I got a story, but I need to put it in the script for him." And that's where it started. It took off from there when Frank stepped away, and me and Gary Davis stepped in to kind of get those episodes out. And then we decided, well, hey, this is pretty much fun. Let's just keep going. And now 18 episodes later, it's been one of the high points of my life. And it comes from just the wanting to do something creative and inventive and create something from nothing, and a lot of luck.
I'm curious.
Those sets are amazing too. Those sets that you're able to use down in
talking about the ones down in Georgia.
Yeah,
raised sets.
I've never been there, but I mean, just the way they present themselves on screen, it's amazing. It's like being there and I've got a couple of actors who go down there and work with you guys that are also working with me, and boy, they're so hyped up every time they get to go. it's contagious excitement.
There's a lot of cross pollination. I know that like Jose has got several of our people that go back and forth between us and him, and
right. The fun of it.
Some people that work with you work with us, and I actually love that. I get a little jealous sometimes when your stuff turns out really good. But hey, I actually like it, and that keeps them busy because we only shoot like one episode of each show per year. So I don't expect them to sit on their hands, for the rest of the year and do nothing. That's not fair.
No, it's not.
So, Jose, you get a lot of the action. Is that right?
Wait, are you talking to me?
Yeah.
Oh, wait. In terms of action, I would say because I have all these ideas and everything and all that. I guess it's motivating people, and because I guess with the cast and crew I'm working with, because on here in Atlanta, Georgia, everyone having busy schedules, so we schedule out. I said I will write what you can give me, so I have these scripts, but I'll say we meet every 3 or 4 months, and then I prioritize the scripts, and then we have a fun job getting them filmed, which is really great. But yeah, I think that's an interesting point that was brought up with the group there, is that like you have all these wonderful sets all around the U.S., like the Neutral Zone down in Georgia. You got Randy Landers, Glen Wolfe's wonderful sets. Frank Parker's, they're all there. They're all spread out, and it's good when you can do crossovers and stuff like that, because each of us have like a different piece of the puzzle,
Yep.
Some of us have bridge sets. Some of us have, like, we have a science lab, for example, different things that kind of fit in the equation, that they're out there. I mean, man hours to build these things, but they're there, and then keep people to travel and to perform them is really wonderful. But I think that's the beauty of it, all this stuff that's there, and being able to synergize and capitalize on it, that's really wonderful. Because a couple of years ago, I wanted to be on all my favorite fan films so I could see their wonderful sets and see how they did their filming, because everybody has their wonderful styles, They all have their unique ways of doing it so that they can put it in the can, and constructing all these magnificent sets, So it's good when the groups can get together and say, hey, can you give me some footage of your ship or whatever? Because we put it in your, this film, we have a reason for it, So that's good when all these different fan films can come together at different points and say, I need bits and pieces of this tapestry, of this jigsaw puzzle, and it fits together really nicely. It's really great,
That's great that you guys are able to, just doing the working together. Some of the films or shots, things like that, and crossovers that you're doing, I think are spectacular. So you'll have to excuse me for this, but I've been looking for fan films, for other films. And this kind of leads me to my next topic is, I hear you guys talking about all these films that you've been a part of. And for me as a fan, as a viewer, there are a lot you're talking about that I have not seen or I have not heard of until talking with you. And so have you found that to be difficult? You're spending all this time making this thing, and yes, you're doing it for fun, but how do you get people to watch? How do you get people, when you say I've been a part of 18 fan films, okay, how do you get that out there to where that can be seen? Because I know the two big ones. I know Phase 2, New Voyages, and Continues, which I'm sure a lot of folks do. I don't know if you've heard of Hidden Frontier. That was what originally got me into it. That's what got me into it at first. But for your guys's, what is that magic formula for getting your guys' stuff seen?
I got to tell you, I wish I knew. we don't get views. There's a couple lists out that list people's films. Go ahead, Jose.
I was going to say, because I was wondering, that's a great question, because I want to say, God, how in the world will people find my film? So I thought about it and say, gee, there are. I said, in the world of today, we want as many people as possible to watch our films, right? Mm-hmm. And I said, wow, Facebook is a catalyst, all right? It is a portal. So I sat down and asked other filmmakers, I said, who the hell do you advertise to? Who do you say, hey, I got this fan film coming up, And since you got it, okay, hold on. I got my marketing book, because, I said, okay, I'm making a fan film, and I don't think anybody's going to watch it. And then I said, wait a minute. That's because I remember the ketchup commercial. Anticipation, right? Okay, let me give you an example. I'm working on Bomber Girl, all right? Okay, who the hell knows I'm even making it, okay? If I put it out, this is my thinking, if I put out, hey, look, I got Bomber Girl, they say, so what, right? Big deal, right?
Yeah.
But if I say, hey, I'm working on Bomber Girl, and here's a breadcrumb, okay? They say, hey, that's kind of cool, man. And then next week I say, here's another breadcrumb. They say, whoa, and here's another one. So my philosophy is, if you're going to do something, maybe if you throw a couple of breadcrumbs, even though you're working on, let's say even it takes you a whole year, right? You start throwing breadcrumbs for the audience, right? So that they would kind of grab it, like Bomber Girl, right? Okay. Just an example, right? So I sat through Facebook. You say, how in the world are people going to know about it, right? Well, let's go to the fan base. So it took me a while, okay? So there, I analyzed it and talked to other people. And there's like, at least, I call it the core of Facebook. And like the fan book promotional sites, okay? Like, let me give you an example. Star Trek fan films and audio dramas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Star Trek fan productions, okay. Fan film forum, oh, okay. The Star Trek Fan Filmmakers Association, hey. The Star Trek fan film resources, okay. You got all these wonderful Facebook sites that are out there, right? And it's free. You could throw in some advertisement when you feel like it, as much as you want to, but I found out not too much, just enough to, occasional get their interest. So they are out there. Facebook is out there. And I'm sure there's other sites that I haven't even figured out yet, but I think in today's world, they're there, as a resource if you want to use it. And I see my fellow filmmakers. That's good. I like it when you see certain things. Hey, I'm working on this film, and here's some behind the scenes. I always get a kick out of that, because maybe they don't realize it, but when they do those behind the scenes, I think it kind of motivates other filmmakers. Say, hey, look, these crazy people have built this XYZ set, and they're making a film, and by God, they look kind of happy doing it, But you see all these things, you say, gee, that's interesting. They're making a film on this or a film on that, or like the one of what we're making a film on Indiana Jones and using kids or whatever it is, But I think that, to answer the question, to summarize it, Facebook is one of the many ways to advertise periodically to build up interest. Is one way I would think. And I'm sure there's other media sources. I'm only familiar with Facebook. I'm not familiar with the other media sources in which you could do that, but they're there. Yep.
Star Trek Reviewed, Big J. In case you're looking for films, they have an entire list of every fan film they've ever been aware of.
Star Trek Reviewed?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's still bright. When Barbara left, that she handed down to a group of other people that are continuing with it. Yeah, but that's a great one. That's like we got the depository, the archives, where to go to find all these wonderful, magnificent films.
Yeah, the memory alpha of fan films.
Memory alpha. That's well put. Yeah.
Nice
So
chair.
We have a multifaceted approach to publicizing. Some of that incorporates what Jose was talking about, which is to advertise the film on these different Facebook groups or Facebook pages, so that our Star Trek audience can be aware of them. But another thing that we do, we have our own Star Trek Fan Productions International page, as well as a couple pages that are strictly devoted to certain films. And so right there, I have 3 Facebook groups that people or pages that people are already members of that I can publicize stuff on. And people who are members of those pages will hopefully see those on their feeds. But another thing I try to do to build up excitement is to actually set up YouTube premieres for the film. So when it comes out, I have a premiere event page that I can post. And then from there, I can invite people to attend the premiere and make them aware of it. So I've found that to be pretty effective to get a lot of people to see the film when it first comes out. And that way, you know, then it kind of generates some early publicity, if you will. And then, you know, from there, hopefully the ball will, keep rolling. So I found that having kind of multiple different ways of approaching it seems to, you know, have some effectiveness.
While I'm thinking of it, would you guys send me invite to any of these groups, like the fan film groups that you are in on Facebook? So that way, so I'd like to be in those and to just to hear more and see more about the stuff you guys are doing. And it's funny that you talk about the different ways or different avenues of trying to get your stuff noticed. I have been resisting the temptation of doing things like TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat. And let me tell you, Snapchat, I still haven't quite figured it out. I don't think it's a good medium for what I'm trying to do, but I really tried to stay away from the other two because not so much with promoting the podcast, but the videos are pretty addicting. I will be laying in bed at night looking at these reels and these videos, and it'll be midnight. I'll say, okay, I'll just watch a couple more. That's it. It's 1:30 in the morning. Ah, shit. Now I've got to get to bed. But I'd have to tell you, I've been having fun with it, just learning it. I've talked to, of course, the younger generation, my oldest son, who's a teenager, and one of my nieces. And I've been going to them for advice. Like, okay, I'm trying to get into more of the whole social media thing. What can I do to get more exposure? And my niece was the one that said, well, you're not reaching your audience. I'm thinking, what do you mean? Because I put it on Facebook, and she said, okay, is that it? Yeah. Well, you're not hashtagging. I said, I'm not what now? So basically what my son and my niece took me through was, these are the ones you should be using, putting these little clips or things on TikTok and Instagram. And they pretty much both agreed that the Snapchat thing is probably not the right one. So I'll probably stop paying attention to that one. But I've learned more. I've learned something that I didn't. Now, I'm not saying that I'm old. I'm 46, but a lot of this stuff is not in my wheelhouse. Like I work in IT and all of that, but learning the ins and outs of just how do you make these things work for you? That's the big part. I know all about the social media platforms, how to post on them, how they work, things like that. But getting it to work in your favor is another thing. Like you're talking about with Facebook, posting in the different groups, finding these groups with people that have the similar interests to get your things out there. And one of the things that I found, and I want to know if you guys have come across this as well, but I kind of think that when it comes to Star Trek, I think just about any medium of Star Trek, for example, podcasting, and that's kind of why I wanted to get your guys's, thoughts on that, because Star Trek and podcasts are very fat in the tail. There are so many of them. I think there's about 200 last time I did a Google search. And I don't know if that counts was active or not, but you're getting into this thing where there's so much out there of it. I don't want to say competition per se, but there's just so much of it that I feel like are the fans getting burned out because there are 200 Star Trek podcasts? Here's another guy who's got one, because you can wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to do a Star Trek podcast. First thing I'll do is review the top 10 episodes of Next Generation, like everyone else does. So for your guys' stuff, is that something that you even think about or worry about? Is there are so many fan films out there and I'm trying to add yet another one, and the people that you try to attract to this, are they being stubborn? Do they not budge? Do you see that your subscribers or whatnot stays pretty much the same number like for a year, because you can't get people excited because it's not so much new anymore. You're not the only ones doing it. You get what I'm saying?
Yep. I'll start if you want.
Okay.
First of all, there's a lot of Star Trek fan filmmakers out there, but most of them are not doing the same thing. So I think you can capture, like us, for example, for the most part, we try to do the original series and stick to canon. Some of the other people are doing alternate versions of reality. Some people are doing Next Generation. Some people are doing Voyager. So everyone's doing their own thing. So I don't really think any of us are mirroring any of the other ones of us at all. So there's a variety there. I personally noticed that when Paramount decided to start making Star Trek again, that's when my numbers kind of froze, because I think the fans now want to see real Star Trek. And so we just kind of got, like you said, I gained a few viewers a day or new subscribers. We used to grow much, much faster than that. But when CBS and Paramount started putting out actual Star Trek again, we leveled off.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I figured that would kind of be the point where that happened, because there was that.
Well, as a podcaster, you can talk about the new Star Trek stuff, so that might not be applicable to you. But for us, we're looking for the TOS audience, and I think we've got our base, and that we're pretty solid there.
Oh, Glenn, I have to admit, I like your answer. I believe you're right about that. Yeah, that's true. I think what we offer as filmmakers is, I think I used to worry about, I don't worry about that anymore, because like Glenn said, you're doing your own thing, and you find your films find their own audience. Okay, when you release the film, okay, it has a life and its soul of its own. I kid you not. It will find its audience. Okay, it will develop a niche, like Glenn and the Federation Files and whatnot. It resonates towards somebody, a certain aspect of the audience. Okay, because Glenn's right. There is so much Star Trek out there, but it's like little guppies and fish that see a substance that kind of feeds on them. I have to say that I remember one fan said to my film, "Your films speak to me." I said, "Oh my God."
Well, they're fun.
Your films
make fun movies.
Speak to them. I kid you not, right? Your films speak to them. It hits and vibrates something within them. And they say, "This is cool, man. This is cool." So yeah, your films, even though there's lots of flavors of Star Trek out there, they find their audience and they love it and say, "This is pretty good, man. This is a pretty good film. You know, I like it." And yeah, you're like Glenn is saying, your films or series of films, they get a following, you know, a niche. There you go.
Yeah.
Our films find a niche somewhere in that Star Trek universe, right? It finds a niche. They find a home, buddy. They find their home. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
Steve, what do you think?
Oh, I agree. I don't have a lot of experience with the marketing aspect. Jeff Barnes, our co-producer, is very good at that type of a thing. And in fact, he's able to just come up with strategies. And I wish he could have been here with us. He was the one that said, "Okay, you need to cross-pollinate, or whatever you want to call it. You got to go to Instagram. You got to go to this. You got to go to that." And I joined all these fan groups that I could think of. I posted stuff, and some of them have these rules about no self-promotion, which, okay, sorry. I know it was out there for a minute.
Right. That's right.
You know, right. And I discussed things with the room builders group, or the CGI group, and that kind of a thing. The actors, you know, there are sites where you recruit actors, locals and otherwise, that you can say, "Hey, you know, if you've got a position open, especially with a green screen deal, You can say, hey, you got a green screen, you got a uniform, send me I'll send you a little script. Let's do a screen test. Send me a screen test. And that will get a little, and if you post that screen test or a portion of it, that also is a little bit of free advertising. What I'm trying this week, hopefully by the end of the month, is I did a session with Maress Lynn and Randy Sweeney back in October last year, where they are my helmsman and navigator on 2 different ships. Okay, so they do costume, and I get them from the front, and they do their lines. I get them from the back, they do their lines, and then they change costumes and do the same thing, but in the opposite chairs with a wig or or whatever. Yeah. And it's the best I can do, man. We're green screen. I don't have a set, so but they're cross pollinating in the other groups here. They've worked with Frank. They've worked down in Georgia with you guys, and I mean they're out there. So you haven't seen them in my film yet, but I've known them for a long time, and I'm hoping to release I have an ad lib that they did a year ago where I said, hey, look, your shift's over. You guys are dating, so invite him back to your place and, just make something up. And they did. And it's cute. They're from Tennessee. They have accents. And I think that's actually going to sell it because it's genuine. And I'm turning that little thing into a vignette, and it's not even on the ship. It's now in a shuttlecraft because I have people that are helping me out who know what the heck they're doing. Pete Profetto is out in Hollywood, and I got another guy in Texas, Ken Mays, who's worked on some of your other guys' projects. I've got a guy who I consult with down in Orlando, Cheng, and he's been providing some backgrounds for us. And then if you post these little photos of the backgrounds or the actors integrated into the project, even though you don't have a completed project yet, you're still promoting it, even if it's just on your Facebook or your Instagram or your Snapchat or whatever you're doing. So there's no secret. I'm not getting views like you guys are. I'm just a little group, but I think we've gained quite a bit of views. You can go and look. I'm not worried about that. I want to do something fun. I want to do something that's different. It's Star Trek, but it's a spinoff. Okay. Mm-hmm. Just like most of you guys, you have your own version. I mean, Jose, you got a fun group of people. You do fun stories. Okay. Now I'm not dissing when I'm saying now I'm trying to stay TOS canon, but what would they have done if they actually did phase 2 as a TV series before they came up with the new uniforms they used in the movie, before they came up with all those ships? What about the Miranda? Okay. So you saw Reliant in the Star Trek 2. What did the actual class ship look like on the inside in TOS era? And that's what we're going to try to pull off. The Columbia, you heard Columbia was out there with the Klingons in Star Trek The Motion Picture. Well, guess what? Columbia's out there, and it looks just like it did in the Franz Joseph's technical manual back in 1975. Ken Mays puts his own spin on those designs. But I'm telling you, it's a combination of being able to be in the right place at the right time, having the right story, knowing the right people, and people being enthusiastic about your project. But you have to inject that enthusiasm. You have to advertise what you have. And I'm hoping that in the near future, I'll have some ads, if you want to call them that, or previews or something like that. Even if it's not an actual production, it's what I'm planning to do. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And
what's your plan? What's in the oven?
Well, right now, if you watch Captain Ross's final message, he was left in a dungeon. So we've got to get him out of the dungeon, whether he's dead or alive. We've got to resolve that issue. And to do that, guess what? He's on Mud's planet. So we're going to have an android or two. We're going to have hopefully Mud, even if he's just seen from the back. I don't know who's my Mud yet, but we're going to have Orions and Klingons and that kind of a thing. And there's the project I've been working on for a year now is in like its 72nd rewrite or something. People are complaining, wait a minute, we started out with 5 pages and now you're up to 32. Obviously not all that's going to end up, in the film, but yeah, there's like 32 pages or so right now. And each one of those pages translates to about a minute of final film, depending on how tight you cut your edit. So, 32 minutes, that's too long. Unless I could make it an hour and cut it into two parts. That's something we're discussing too. That's the Xenocian encounter. It started out over with Jim Williams and a group of guys. And Jim wanted to be more comedic and we didn't. We wanted to be more serious. So we moved production over to our company. And then we've got the 4 films that we're working with Vance Major and Frank Parker.
Good.
They're introducing our characters into their realm and vice versa, but in the TOS era. And some of our actors will show up as after credits in some of their films. So I like what we're doing. I think, like I said before, and like you all are pointing out, we've got our own niche. David's got a fantastic niche, and I just got a new uniform, buddy. I got a red uniform now. I got a maroon.
That's good to know.
Yeah, I just got it. So, I'm going to be in a little vignette for Vance in the red uniform in the future. But that's like 10 or so years in my future from our series. So I hope that answered your question. I'm sorry I droned on.
No, you did. Answered it greatly. Randy and David, I'd like to hear from you guys as well. Either one of you wants to jump in first between the two of you.
Go ahead, Randy.
Go ahead. Well, I forgot the question. What was the question?
I'm thinking I might have forgot the question too. It's
advertising.
It's the in regards to the promoting, the advertising. Is it difficult because there are so many? There's so much content out there now that it's hard to really kind of, I guess, build your core to be able to stand out.
We stink at promotion. We absolutely stink at it. But we're just so busy. We're always in pre-production or post-production on something, and we're just going as hard as we can go. I very seldom get more than a week or two off in between our episodes we're doing. So Gary normally does the trailers, but once he's done the trailer, it's just like, okay, I've done the trailer. What do you want to do with it? I don't know. Give it to our group. So we've got like a secret, double secret probation Facebook group that and it's all the people, the cast and crew, and we put it out there. We give them the link and we say, look, share this, get it out there, send it places, and they do. And it goes out to all those YouTube, Facebook channel groups and all that. So, but they kind of handle it on their own, and we're off, working on the next script or whatever, and casting. I'm doing casting now for the next one, and so don't come to me. I don't know. We try, but we're just awful at it. So I expect we'd have a lot more views if we did work at it harder and longer. By the way, I came up with a term the other day. I thought to myself, views are our currency. That's really a kind of a cool saying. I like that. I'm going to write that down somewhere.
I like that.
Views are our currency. So, we deal in the number of views we get, not because we're vain and we just want to have more views than anybody else, but that's the only money we get for doing this. It's like our currency. That's what we get paid. And, if we spend $5,000, making an episode, I don't want to get 150 views.
Damn it! I want people to watch it.
I want people to
Exactly.
watch it. Yeah,
that's a good point. That's a good point. You're right. You want to make sure people are watching the darn thing. If you're going to spend $5,000, you want to get $5,000 worth of views. You're right. You're right.
And by the same token, I know it's kind of changing the subject, but by the same token, we don't pay actors to come down to Kingsland, and we, in rare occasions, we've given somebody a little stipend for gas, because they come from like 12 hours away or something. But we generally don't pay anything, not even lodging when they come down there. And for that reason, these views, it being released on YouTube and people seeing the work they did and the work they put into it, that's their pay. And for that reason, we don't leave a lot on the cutting room floor. I mean, if you're a working actor and it's your job, and you go into a job and you work for a week and they give you $20,000 and you're like, great. You don't give a flying flip what happens to that. You got your money. But these people, their pay is it being released and people seeing them in that film. So I will never, I hate to say never, but I never want to cut somebody completely out of the film, because that's just like saying, thanks for the work, but I'm not paying.
Yep.
I mean, really not paying. You're not even going to get to be in the film, which is what you came down there for. And sorry about changing the subject, but there's something that I think about a lot.
No, that's great. I love that. David, does that give you any ideas, either the part of my subject or Randy's? Both very great topics.
Well, in addition to what I had mentioned before, one of the other things that I think is helpful is just appearing on, different people's podcasts and stuff and talking about your films, because those podcasts have their own audience. And so it's a way to, expose what you're doing to, another set of audience, or another set of people who might not otherwise have known about what you're doing. In fact, I'm hoping that your podcast that you're doing with us right now will help everyone here.
I do too.
Get some more people who might be interested in our films. So yeah, and there's one person that I likes to occasionally do like a marathon of our films, and so that's another good way to just get exposure, because that person will have their own audience and will be able to expose the films to the people who like to watch their podcast. So all those are additional ways of kind of just getting the word out about what you're doing.
I want to talk a little bit about gatekeeping, because when you guys were talking about the different facets of promoting and the topic of group administrators came up, and how often you're able to promote these things, given the fact that to you might be promoting one thing, say maybe once a week, once a month, but then you have 30, 40 people with the same thing. Probably the one place, and there was a podcast that I did. It was a different format of a Star Trek podcast that I started out with. And this was back in 2019. And I hardly talk about it anymore. It only lasted a few months, but it was about the Star Trek community on Reddit, which is probably the worst place that you could do a podcast series about in regard to the least amount of support that you're going to get on it. Plus, it kind of quickly painted myself into a corner. And I think that's the other thing, is what topic is your thing or show going to be about that actually will be able to create regular content. And I was on a podcast. We had actually a couple guys that were doing a podcast come on to ours. And we were talking about the format that I was doing along with my other co-hosts. And the one thing that he brought up was this phrase, the problem with Star Trek on Reddit is that Star Trek is not popular on Reddit. And it's kind of fallen out of the mainstream. And I told this guy this just as recently as a couple weeks ago, was that I have you to thank for Beyond Trek podcast, because you pointed out something that I guess I didn't really realize or didn't catch on to soon enough, was that there was this hard wall that was already kind of in front of me in regards to where this was going to go, who was going to care. And the one place on Reddit when it comes to Star Trek where you can get the most exposure, of course, obvious name, Star Trek. Now I'm going to get banned for saying this, because if any moderator in that community hears this, but they're good at that. They will ban users or these fans for the slightest thing. And they've unfortunately become known for hostility towards the users and the fan base. You try to promote your fan film or anything, boom, gone. You're out of there immediately. So has that been another challenge that you've had to face, is you're trying to expand your audience or your views, and these platforms that you would think are there to do that are being run and managed by people that are kind of doing what they can to keep you from being able to do that. All those no self-promotion rules, this or that. Does that make it kind of like why there's the resistance? You're fighting with other fans to try to reach out about your work. And that's the first rule they have, is if you self-promote, you're out of here.
Yeah, I've definitely had that problem. About a year ago, I started asking questions on certain Facebook groups, like, hey, anybody know how to make this, thing for Star Trek? And they're like, you want a prop group, and it's illegal to sell Star Trek things unless you have a license. So you're out of here, like, wait a minute. And another group of CGI artists, I was looking for help. I said, I have no budget. This is strictly a fan film. We're doing it for the fun of it and for love. If anybody would like to volunteer, I would like to talk to you. And I got jumped on by all kinds of people. And I did a smart aleck remark that I was trying to explain. I'm not trying, because somebody said, well, you're just stealing from people or something to that effect. I said, no, sir. No, I am not stealing anything. I said straight up front that this is voluntary. I need help. I don't know how to do it. I'm a writer. I'm an actor. I'm an editor and so on, but I am not a CGI artist. I don't know how to do the composites. I mean, when I do it, it looks terrible. And, so I need help. And they're like, no, you're stealing from people. You're out of here. I don't get it. I'm asking for help, people. Okay. I said up front, I wasn't going to pay. And if you don't want to do it, just don't answer. Right. I mean, I'm not being mean. I'm being honest. And that's the thing is, like I said, there are some toxic things in our groups, but that's not Star Trek related. That's gatekeeping, like you said. You've got other people who absolutely hate Alec Peters. And I was on some groups where they were bashing him. I'm like, dude, do you work for CBS or something? Who made you boss? Right? Mm-hmm. And they're like, yeah, well, I don't work for CBS, but I know the rules. And I said, we all know the guidelines. Okay. And I'm nobody. I've got a 12-minute film up. Okay. I've met the guidelines even before they recently changed. So, you're not helping by doing CBS's job. If they want to ban me or tell me cease and desist, they're going to contact me. They're going to talk to Alec. His stuff has been settled in court. Why are you bothering this man? He's trying to do something that people want done. And instead, we're being crucified for trying to do what we want and trying to be fun, trying to have a good time and produce a quality product that people are asking for. I mean, how many people have asked, what would have happened if Phase 2 was actually aired? What kind of stories did they have? Where were they going to go? What were their ships going to be like? What were their uniforms? And there's so little about it. And so that's why I've come to every little piece of information that I could, and I'm trying to do a logical evolutionary step from TOS into the next phase. Why are you jumping on me for that? Nobody else is doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point. It sounds, I think people will go out of their way to be negative. They will take time out of their day, drop what they're doing to criticize something that you're doing for fun. Do you guys see that more often than you want to?
Kind of stepping on landmines,
Yes.
Kapow,
It is. You're walking on eggshells the whole time because you're thinking one wrong word or one too many self-promotion, and that's it. You've lost. You've been cut off from an entire group of people that you now can't interact with anymore. And we're kind of, as fans, it almost seems like sometimes we're fighting ourselves. The people that are coming down harsh, being critics. It's easy to be a critic, and and you're right about the guidelines. I was talking to Ray Tessie about that, about the guidelines. Well, they're not rules; they're guidelines. And the first thing that the Star Trek internet community jumped on was that, these are rules. If you break these rules, that's a big no-no. Okay, well, no, they're not rules; they're guidelines. And the problem is you have ill-informed individuals making judgments on something that you're doing when they don't have the correct information, or they've gotten it twisted around to thinking, I know what I'm talking about. I know it's right. No, you don't. You actually do not. But you're going to tell us how to do what we're doing.
Happens all the time. Which is why I try to stay off of most of those groups, because, nowadays you're guilt by association. 3 degrees, 6 degrees of separation from anybody in Star Trek. Everybody here is 6 degrees separated from everybody else in fan films. And if they hate one person because you walked across the street from that person 3 years ago, you're supporting him, and we hate him, so we hate you. It's crazy. So I try to stay off of all that. Now, I've been caught up in that too, as far as my name coming up, but I just ignore it all because you know what? I'm doing this for fun.
That's right.
I'm not taking anything from anybody. We're self-funded, which really means zero budget.
Exactly.
And watch my film. Don't watch my film. I didn't really make it for you. I don't want to sound like a jerk, but I didn't make it for you. I made it for me and my friends who came here and made it. If you enjoy it, great. But otherwise, I try to stay out of as much of that as I can. Sometimes it's impossible. But I guess to circle back around to your point about these groups, you're right. I think that's where the negativity in the Star Trek world is the groups that are doing the Facebook pages and that. It's not really between the creators themselves, because I think I know almost everybody making fan films in some way. And we all know each other's names for sure. And for the most part, we all interact with each other at some point. So, I share my love of Star Trek with people who want to be positive. And if they want to be negative, well, then they can just move along.
That's a good point.
Amen.
That's a good point that you made there, and it just kind of hit me subconsciously is that the reason that Reddit is on the bottom lowest rung of anywhere you'd want to be to try to promote your work, because there's not a large audience of it on that site to begin with. But that and Facebook, you're dealing with groups that are run by other people, other users that can wake up on a bad day and decide that you're going to get shit canned for no reason, and that they're going to judge your work. They're running their space the way that they want to and to micromanage it, as opposed to YouTube, TikTok, Instagram. They don't give a shit what you do. They're not groups that are run by the common person that doesn't like discovery, so that if you post something about discovery, they're going to kick you. Things like that. So you've got some more freedom there. You don't have to worry as much. Now, the big things, like I'm sure if you put something on any of these sites that's, you're not going to get away with nudity or probably a lot of abusive or harsh language or anything, but you're talking the big stuff you've got to do. But on some of these other platforms, the smallest little thing you can be gone for. So I think that has, let me direct that at you, Randy. Do you think that has a lot to play in it? Is that you can get further when you don't have the fans as power hungry moderators or administrators helping to get in the way?
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
Is it better to create awareness on your work when you're doing it in a space that's not run by another person or people that will just decide they don't like you or they don't like what you do and you're out of the group, or like that?
Okay, well, we've always relied on all these like these Facebook groups, the Star Trek fan films and audio, and all that, and we've also relied on some of the podcasters and YouTube channel people to do premieres with us and that sort of thing. And I always like to say that I know with some of the premieres we've done, they would have like 30 people watching live and go up onto YouTube. And over the course of the next few months, it would like have 300 or 400 views. And I'm like, I'll do it again.
That feels good. If you're in a room with 30 people that are watching your film, that would be a great feeling.
Yeah. And if you don't know how many of their friends they're telling you about.
Yep.
I mean, it's not just the number of views. But even if it was, I love the idea that I can get our actors in there and they can feel good about what they did, and they can feel like, look, I made this film and now we're talking about it on the internet and have a good time for an hour and a half or 2 hours, and talk about their experiences and they're not ever going to go into a network late night talk show. But they can do this, and they can feel like a star for a little while, and it's fun. And even if we only hit 300 or 400 people that probably already know about us anyway, that's okay. We're having fun, and it's enjoyable, and maybe it does some good. Really. So. Yeah, but we don't do much more than that. Just spread the word, put our trailers out there into the Facebook groups, and do these premieres. And then, of course, we have the ability to do the YouTube premiere. We publicize that and make a Facebook event, that you can say, yes, I'm coming, no, I'm not, and make a big deal out of it, that we're having this premiere on YouTube. We'll have the premiere on whatever podcast channel or YouTube channel at, say, 9 p.m. And then at midnight, we'll release it on YouTube. So the podcast or whatever do get exclusive. They get to show it before we put it on YouTube, even if it's just a few hours. But it is exclusive, and then we get the video chats and the interviews and questions and all that. The YouTube premiere is just the little text chat window that comes up beside it, and it's less of a big deal, but it's still fun, and that's about the extent of our promotion. And like I say, that stinks. We probably should do a lot more, but we're busy.
As another side note, podcasters to work with to help with your stuff and do. Hello.
Excellent.
Yeah, right here. Let me just slide out of frame and then slide back into it. Hello.
Oh,
hello there.
Yeah.
I want to say on the gatekeeping, fascinating subject, because listening to everyone talk, you're with a group of creators and we want to create. And I think it boils down to not breathing the toxic air, and if when you're on the radio, right, and you're in your car, right, you can change the frequency, because you want to keep a positive mind, and I think, like for me, when I dwell, I try to dwell on the positive news, like, sure, you got Facebook. One thing we didn't talk about on this one there too is I noticed the creators have like their own Facebook accounts. So if you have stuff you want to get to your fans, you use your own Facebook account. If it's something you want to reach to a larger audience, then you start getting into other people's accounts, like, the fan films and audio presentation, that sort of thing, the bigger one. And then also what we didn't talk about too is that there are, when you change that radio, like the podcasts, and like people like you and others that do the things that you do, a good way to promote films, but on a positive note, and the premieres, and then also too that I would say the film festivals, because there are so many film festivals out there that's another avenue as well too. But I would say not breathing the toxic air so that you can have enough positivity, as it's kind of like the creator is like on a ship, okay? And you're charting down the waters, right? And the fog comes in, and you navigate, right? You navigate and the lightning and the waves come up. That's the people say, hey man, we don't like your films, blah, blah, blah. The negativity vibes, right? And you're on your ship, right? You say, stay focused, we're going to get through the storm, right? The rain, the hail,
I love it.
And it's like that with, I would say, social media, because everything you're talking about is like, it's that social media, either landmines, right? Yep. Or the wind, or the rain, hey, you're strapping yourself to the sails, we're going to get through this thing.
I love that analogy, because I immediately picture someone strapped to the sail of a boat.
Yeah, right? Social media can be that strong. So yeah.
David, is there a social media outlet that you like the most?
Oh, I can't pick one. I mean, there's quite a number that, that are generally favorable or positive. I haven't personally run too much into the gatekeeping thing that you're referring to. I have, we do have some, occasionally toxic fans that'll post certain comments on our YouTube, the films that we post on YouTube. But my general approach to things is just to kind of, ignore the noise, just try to ignore the negativity out there. You're not going to be able to please everyone. That's for sure. And no matter how good your project might be or how, quote, successful it is, there's always going to be detractors of some type. So, why worry about them? I don't want to waste energy or time with the people who may not like us for whatever reason. And I just don't really care that much. If you don't like us, you don't like us. I'd rather focus on those that, get something out of what we do and who, appreciate what we do. So that's kind of my general approach.
You know what I take out of that, what you just said, David?
No?
I love, of course, getting positive comments, but if you leave me a negative comment, I still won because you took the time out of your day to actually sit down and write something about it. So that's my positive spin on it. If you cared enough to comment, either way, I touched you in some way.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sometimes think that too.
So I like constructive criticism. The post that your film sucks doesn't help me make a better film, but you did take the time to write it down. So I got a view and I got a comment. I'm happy.
Right. And I bet that just pisses them off if you say that.
Yeah. Well, I don't respond to them, but now when they watch this and know, hey, I like the negative stuff as much as hey, maybe I'll get a lot more negative comments, but they'll get my count up.
Yeah. What Glenn is saying is right, because I know there's people out there that I swear they have appointed themselves as the self-appointed trolls.
Yeah.
That all they can do is negativity. That's right. And what I found out, the best medicine is like Glenn is saying, you get a reaction on them, but I don't feel responsible for having now to respond to them anymore. You know?
Yeah, me neither.
But they are the self-appointed troll, right? They're hiding in the bushes, right? And they're ready to leap out. All those.
You're right, Jose. I have one person in particular. When I set up a premiere, I get a negative comment 3 seconds in from the same person all the time. They're just waiting to say something bad, even though they haven't watched the film because it came out 3 seconds ago. But that's what you set yourself up for when you do this.
That's right.
He's part of your core. You've got a viewer of religious follower.
For me to release. Get a life, right?
Yes. Oh God. Yes. Yes. Get a life. Is that's a good point in saying that is, now you may disagree with me on this, but is it also kind of do you feel that because Star Trek isn't mainstream, and in my opinion, I would say I don't feel that Star Trek is mainstream. It's not like Star Wars, Power Rangers, and the Marvel stuff, DC. Now, granted, I'm basing this off of the toy aisle at any store you go to, Target, Walmart, back when Toys R Us was a thing. But I kind of look at that as the indicator that you're mainstream or close to it, is that you have the merchandise, you have you're placing yourself somewhere where people are going to see it, whether it's shirts, pajamas, toys, water bottles, whatever it is, cereal boxes. You just don't see Star Trek. And it's the only time you did really was in the 90s when it was mainstream. It was all over. Now, I'm sure that probably basing mainstream off of merchandising, appearance might not be the best way to do it, but I feel like it just, to me, I think Star Trek is not. Is that something that you guys like to hear the agrees or disagree with that?
I'll go again first, I guess. I think I do agree with you, but the reason I feel it's not mainstream is the reason it couldn't catch on in the 1960s. It was not so entertaining as some of the other franchises you mentioned, where everybody's looking for a thrill. It was more cerebral. And, that's not what people look for in their entertainment for the most part. They want, the women like the love story things. I'm going to get really crucified for that, but I'm being very general in this. Star Wars, people like seeing things blow up. And especially kids. Kids need wow. Yeah. Kids don't want to sit down and think through an hour-long story and realize there was a moral or something there. They want to see things blow up, or a bunch of people flying around, and that were totally impossible. At least Star Trek theoretically could be possible, whereas Superman is not. You're never going to have anything close to Superman or Batman, the vigilante. The cops would arrest him right away and put him in jail. So
wait a minute,
yeah,
Glenn.
It's the wow factor.
Are you saying that kids would not sit through a 10-minute reveal of the refit Constitution class Enterprise from motion
Only if
picture?
they were tied to a chair.
Are you telling me that they would not sit back and enjoy the sequence of meandering over the top of V'ger in this large energy cloud?
Hey,
I can't believe
Hear them memorizing technobabble.
Yeah. My grandkids
Yes, that's
would
what I'm
say,
saying.
"Why are you torturing me? I want to see Prodigy."
It is.
I have an interesting anecdote for a minute. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
My grandkids live in Germany, and they came for a visit recently, and I showed them our film. And I said, "What do you think happens next?" And they're like, "Oh, well, blah, blah, blah." And they've given me ideas about what happens next, right? I said, "Well, did you enjoy this film?" And they're like, "It was okay. I'd rather watch Prodigy." But I'm not in Prodigy.
Right. I like that. We're being tortured watching this. But
Yep. I wanted to say, you talked about the concept of mainstreaming now with Star Trek then and Star Trek now. And I was thinking, we have gone through, I would say, a metamorphosis in mainstreaming. And let me explain. I'm venturing to say the people in this room, okay, when you say mainstreaming, like watching Star Trek in the 1960s or 70s, there was like a common trough. I mean, there were like 3 TV networks, all right? So there was a commonality of mainstreaming, all right, back then, all right? Now, you look at when you say mainstream today, it's kind of like the other side of the coin. It's mainstreaming. The concept of mainstreaming to me has changed radically different, okay? There's no more common platforms you can talk about. We now live in an era of such diversification, where you have cable TV, regular TV, you have streaming. It's like, whoa, it's like, I would say today's audience now, when you talk about mainstream, doesn't share the commonality bonds that we had then. Oh, I watch Star Trek on CBS. Well, that world doesn't exist anymore. Now it's platforms. It's now childhood, people being raised, right? And hey, it's like, what suits your taste? There's a different platform for that. I said, oh my God, this is incredible. So I would say the Star Trek then to the Star Treks now is like, it's in a whole new world of quote mainstream. I just wanted to bring that down, that to me, the concept of mainstreaming has changed when we grew up when we were children and mainstreaming to like my grandkids that are growing up now. That concept of mainstreaming is completely different,
There's a strong and loyal audience for Star Trek, but it's not huge.
Yep.
And there's many different genres, different types of shows and movies that appeal to different people. You can go to any comic convention, for example, and you'll see dozens of different people dressed up in costumes from different shows, many of which I don't recognize myself. But you've got loyal fans for each of these different segments or entertainment areas. And so I think Star Trek is just kind of like one of them. You've got your Game of Thrones, you've got your Harry Potter. Yeah, you got this and that, and you got Star Wars, and you got Star Trek. So it's one of those many genres that people enjoy, but it's got a pretty strong and loyal fan base, I think.
So maybe a smaller fan base, but more loyal than others, or is that overreaching there to say that we've got a more loyal fan base, but it's smaller?
sounds reasonable. I know that we've got there's a lot of people out there that just cannot get enough Star Trek, and that's why we have an audience. The audience that we do, a lot of the reason is because people just can't get enough. They've seen everything CBS and Paramount has to offer, and they're like, okay, what else you got? And we'll try to give them something else. And by the way, I just love the fact that just in this group, we have a representation of all different levels and types of fan films. I personally think that from the very no budget films that have no sets and it's all green screen or it's all filmed in somebody's backyard, I think that is wonderful. And one of the things I love about that is that it encourages people and it inspires people that look at those films and say, I could do that. I don't have the money to rent the sets or do this kind of thing, but I could do that. And you know what? It looks like fun. I think I'll do it. And maybe down the road we'll have somebody else doing it because of the no budget or ultra low budget fan films. On the other hand, people will look at those. Some people will look at those and say, I got no time for that at all. I want something that looks all polished, and that end of it. We don't have anybody at the very tip top, like STC here, but those people. So there's something for everybody, and there's probably some that love it all, and then some that just like the more spit polished looking stuff, and some that look like the inspirational. Look, I can do it. You can do it. So I'm sorry, I digress again.
It's perfect. It's perfect. You brought up something that I remembered when I talked to Vance Major on our interview was he said, get a camera, use your phone, throw on a uniform or something that might look like uniform, go out in the woods, film your fan film, do your thing. Anyone can do it. It's not you don't have to be an employee of CBS or Paramount to go have fun. No one's going to say, well, we're not going to hire you because we don't like your idea. You're not in a job interview. You don't have to have someone give you approval to do a thing. I didn't have to interview anyone to do a podcast. I'm not hired. I just decided one day, I'm going to do this. And that's what's very freeing about it is you don't have to answer to someone that's going to say, well, you're not good enough. This doesn't look well enough. This isn't polished. You don't have this, and that. It's okay. Well, you don't have that. No one can stop you from doing it. And for me, that's why I think that this stuff that we do, that all of us represent in this room, one of the reasons that we like doing it is because no one is saying that we can't. So I'll leave you with that profound. It's going to be one of those things that, and 2 hours from now, you'll be sitting in your chair thinking, that thing Big J said earlier, that was some good stuff. Guys, I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate all of you taking out the time to do this. I know that in different time zones, different schedules, it can be tough to do, but I appreciate every one of you that came and sat down in on this. So did any of you have any closing thoughts, something that you've been wanting to say, trying to get out, but haven't had a chance to yet?
Yeah, if I could, because listening to all this wonderful dialogue, from my fellow film fans, I wanted to say, I think what it all boils down to is we are feeding an appetite. All right. Let me explain. Our creative appetite. Okay. Our visionary appetite. All right. But at the same time, because we are feeding ourselves with this creative energy, we're feeding others. There's hungry people for Star Trek fan films that are out there, and they want to see your film. And one way or the other, they'll find your film, So, what dare I say it? We're helping to feed the hungry.
Well, I want to say thank you to Big J for hosting this and inviting us to be part of this roundtable. I've really, for speaking for myself, I've really enjoyed hearing and dialoguing with all my fellow filmmakers here, and appreciate each and every one of you for your thoughts and for what you guys are doing.
Very well said. Yes.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, guys.
I'd like Big J. Could you have everyone go through and say their name and the name of their series so if people want to go and look at them?
That's a perfect idea. I am glad you said that. That is great. Okay. So let's start here. I'm going to start on my left, your right of my screen, kind of go down and around and up. Randy, start with you. Just give us your name and what you're working on.
All right. My name is Randy Wrenn, actually, and you will sometimes see that as David R. Wrenn. And I'm one of the three co-executive producers of the Dreadnought Dominion series and the larger Dominion Media group. And in that Dominion Media, we do Dreadnought Dominion, Project Runabout, and I have trouble remembering that Warbird Valdor. And that's our current three series that we're doing. We've only got one or two episodes of some of those. And in the past, we've done Star Trek Outlaws and What Lies Beyond, which is kind of a Twilight Zone spoof, or not spoof, but fan film series. We did 4 episodes of that. And we've done several other things, and they're all on the Dreadnought Dominion YouTube channel. And that's Dreadnought with an O, not an A. So, and that's where we are.
David?
Yeah, I'm David Cheng. Our YouTube channel is called Star Trek Fan Productions International. And we have about 7 films on there. We don't have series like other people do. And most of the films are pretty much just sort of standalone stories. So a lot of our films are kind of set in the original series movie era, although we've expanded with our latest project was Borg Hunters, which was set in the kind of a next generation or Voyager type of an era. And our next film that we're working on is actually set in the Picard era. So we're trying to kind of expand out of the original series movie era and to explore other realms.
Steve?
Yeah. Steve Harry Harris. My wife gave me that nickname when I lost my hair and grew a beard. We're called Fecto Studios Harris Film Productions. Our series is the Task Force 78. It's basically a phase 2 type of a storyline. We're starting out in the era of around Mudd's planet on the original series and going from there. So our first film was called Captain Roth's Final Message. We also have several sequels and prequel in production right now. Been working on one film for over a year, and I'm hoping to get a short done called The Blue Stuff that should premiere around Halloween.
Nice. Now, I've been calling you Joe, but I've heard others saying Jose. What's that?
I said I go by Joe.
You do go by Joe. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. All right. So, Joe, you're next.
All right. On Joe Cepeda of Star Trek Nature's Hunger. Our YouTube channel is Star Trek Nature's Hunger. We made 40 films in the past 10 years, but our claim to fame, our most popular film is Razor's Edge. This summer, we released A Fighting Chance. And over the next 2 years, our next film that we're going to be releasing will be Bomber Girl at the end of the year. Then next year, Don't Go Ape. That's a Planet of the Apes fan film. Then Scream of the Ape. That's another Planet of the Apes film. Then and Rise of the Mantis. But those are the big 4 films that we're working on in the next 4 years. The next 2 years.
Wow.
Glenn?
But we'll see if we can get there.
Oh, sorry.
So the next film will be Bomber Girl. That's the one we're filming 4 films at the same time.
Ooh.
But we're working on finishing the next one, which will be Bomber Girl. That's a World War II film with Janet Pepperstone as a nurse that hitchhikes a ride on a B-24 bomber, Liberator bomber. So, and that we hope to have before Christmas if all goes well.
Glenn?
My name is Glen Wolfe, or in the credits, it's Glen L. Wolfe, because there's a lot of Glen Wolfes on IMDb, so I had to try to be different.
Yeah.
My film series is not really my series. I have a partner, Dan Reynolds, so it's our series. It's called The Federation Files. We've released 13 episodes in the past. We have like 9 animated episodes, and wow. We just released a Stargate episode about a month ago. So we've been doing this about 7 years. Our YouTube channel is The Federation Files, although Stargate 13, which is our Stargate episode, is not on that page because it's not Star Trek. But we had a lot of fun doing that. We got 3 films in the works right now. The next one to come out is called Mother, which was written by Dan and a friend of his. It should be out by the end of the year. And let's see, we're also working on a Space 1999 episode, which I've been doing stuff for a year. I think that's the 2 most current things we have coming out. I have half shot a Jurassic Park film, but I'm not sure when I'm going to finish that. Mm-hmm. So, and Jose kind of mentioned in one of his comments about Fan Film Fest, we actually run a strictly fan film fest called the Director's Choice Fan Film Awards. Which we get a lot of different fan films because it's open to all fan films, not just Star Trek. So we have Harry Potter and James Bond and all that, and we run that. It's open from November to January, and then in April we announce the winners on that. And there's a small cash prize and notoriety, and you get to learn from other people making fan films and advertise a little bit, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
Thanks, Glenn. If you want to have an intro tune to a show that you'll never be able to get out of your head, the intro to Space 1999.
Yes.
Anyone listening or watching, Google it or go on YouTube, Space 1999. That, especially the first season now. The second season one was, the first season was, that's a very good tune. So thank you. That's in my head again. It took about a year and a half.
I built today.
Oh, okay.
It sits on top of the console.
Wow. Nice. That's good work. Well, thank you guys. Thank you. Thank you very much. If there's anything that you think of that I may be able to do to help you guys out in your endeavors, please keep me in mind because I'd be more than happy to do that. You guys are great. Excuse me. You guys are great. Glad I had the chance to meet you. And yeah, live long and prosper. Enjoy the work that you're doing and do it for fun. If you enjoyed this podcast, you can support us at patreon.com/BeyondTrek.
We are Beyond Trek Podcast. Lower your inhibitions and surrender your years. We will add inspirational and hilarious Trek content to your day. Your attention will adapt to subscribe to us. Resistance is futile.